Dark magic. Dark cloak. Lightless slash.
Thanks to this build, Red Yami can deal insane amounts of crit damage, and this is thanks to his kit. As Red Yami is an attacker who is a crit-based damage dealer who applies bleed stacks, is a boss killer, and can also stun. So let's start off with his skill 1, Continuous Slash. Now this is an AoE skill 1, meaning whenever you use it, you'll be able to hit every enemy that's on the field. And this has damage ratios of 60% attack and 60% magic attack, with all of the upgrade effects being 3% for both attack and magic attack as well. Meaning the attack and magic attack, once you get to level 5, will increase from 60% to 72%. And then also this skill will then inflict bleed stacks, only 1 bleed stack on all enemies upon when he lands a crit with it, which will deal continuous damage for 2 turns. And the way bleed damage works is basically every time an enemy will take their turn or whatever, they will take damage equal to 5% of their max HP at the start of their turn, and then this bleed stack can only stack once. Now this skill is going to be the skill where Yami is going to be able to do most of his damage, as this AoE damage, especially when it crits, does a load of damage. Then onto his skill 2, which is Wind Slash. This is basically just a single target damage dealing skill with damage ratios of 110% and 110% for both attack and magic attack, with a cooldown of 3 turns. And the upgrade effects are going to be from level 2 to level 5, are all going to give you 10% on both attack and magic attack as well, which will raise the damage ratios from 110 for both attack and magic attack all the way to 150% for both of them. And then the bonus effects for this skill are basically whenever Yami attacks an enemy that's afflicted with bleed, he will then inflict a stun status ailment on them for 1 turn, and basically if you don't know what a stun is, it basically makes it so they can't act on their next turn. And these kinds of debuffs are so valuable, as being able to stopping your enemies from being able to take turns is really handy, especially if it's a fast enemy. Then it is going to be really helpful. And then next up, this skill also has a 30% increased damage dealt buff when attacking a boss. And then also, assuming this has stayed the same from the KRN JP version, when you have his skill page on Red Yami as well, his skill 2 will then gain an extra bonus effect, which will give him 10% increased crit damage for 2 turns for each instance of continuous damage an enemy is taking. Then onto his ultimate, Dark Cloaked Lightless Slash. Now this is basically also a single target ultimate, and this will obviously have the regular amount of special points required for you to use it. And this is just, again, a single target ultimate, which is going to have damage ratios of 160% for both attack and magic attack, and the upgrade effects are going to be 20% for attack and magic attack for every level upgrade, which will then raise it all the way from 160% for both attack and magic attack all the way to 240%. Then this ultimate will also give him an increased crit rate of level 2, which is going to be an 18% crit rate, and this buff will last for 2 turns, and considering he's a crit based unit, that's pretty helpful. And then he'll also have an 80% chance to inflict bleed on an enemy, dealing continuous damage for 2 turns as well, which is not as good. It's kind of useless because you're looking to apply bleeds with your skill 1, but it's still, nonetheless, it's still something at the end of the day. So next up, onto Yami's stats, and these are his stats right here. At level 100 LR, he has a total of 24,316 power, or CC, with 9,719 attack and 3,239 magic attack. And then also the more important stats to note are going to be his crit rate, which is 22.03%, and his crit damage being 57.5%, and then his speed being 103. Now I want to focus on this speed stat a lot, because this speed stat is going to be fine for now, but as we get more DPSs in the future, he's going to be outshined in terms of speed, so just keep that in mind when you come to build him, come to use him, that he's not going to be the fastest character on your team, but he's going to be one of the biggest damage dealers on your team if you do plan to use him. So the next section is, what talents are you going to want to put on your Yami? So I think the 2 most important talents that you're going to want to look at are going to be the increased crit damage buff of 10%, as well as the regular 5% damage dealt increase. So we're doing this because obviously Yami is a crit based unit, so we're going to assume that he's going to be critting as much as possible, and in order for that damage to scale even higher, we need the crit damage increase. And then because you can only pair talents that are next to each other, the other one, Ferocity, which is going to be an increased damage dealt to bosses, isn't really going to be that useful, so it kind of means that we have to take Sharp Mind, which is going to be a 5% damage dealt increase. Then for the defensive talents, all you really want is the 20% defense increase, and then alongside it you can also run the endurance one, which will give you a 4% defense increase and a 2% crit resistance increase at the start of every wave. This is normally only really good for PvE, but it's still useful in all other activities in PvE as well, so it's useful, but it's not really needed. So then onto the support talents, the one that you're going to be wanting the most is going to be Swiftness, as this is going to allow your Yami to gain as many special points as quickly as possible, so he can pop his ultimate as quickly and as often as he possibly can. And then again, because you can only pair it from the ones that are either on the left or the right of it, it honestly doesn't really matter. You could go for the damage resistance one if you wanted, or if you wanted to receive a little bit of extra healing, you can then go for the HP recovery one, but I think the damage resistance one is probably a little bit more universal. Next up is the actual gear sets and what gear and what stats that you're going to want on your Yami. So the main 3 gear sets that we're going to be looking at is going to be the Ominous gear set, as it gives you a 7% attack and magic attack increase. You're going to want the 2-piece set of that, and then you're also going to want the Noble's Inheritance gear set as well, which is going to give you on a 2-piece crit rate increase of 5%. And then the final 2-piece set you're going to want is going to be Resolute Judge, as this is going to give you 7% increase in crit damage. So essentially all of these gear sets are built around being able to deal as much damage as we possibly can with our Yami. So now onto the actual stats on your gears that you're going to want to use, and for all the main stats of gears that you're going to want to use, you're going to want to pick the ones that will give you attack, and that's pretty much it, because I'm pretty sure all of the gear pieces can either just give the main stats of HP, defense, and also attack or magic attack. So because Yami is a physical, just or like a regular attack damage dealer, you're going to want to stack as much regular attack as you possibly can in order for him to do as much damage, as his job isn't to tank, it's not to take damage. That's what your defenders and healers are supposed to be there for. So in order for him to do as much damage as possible, you want to go for the pieces that have main stats of attack and magic attack, but preferably attack, as attack is by far going to scale way further. But if you don't have anything else, then you can also just put on magic attack if you have to. And then in terms of substats, the ones that you're going to be wanting to look for the most are going to be things like crit rate, crit damage, and attack percent. And in terms of skill pages, it's actually a really easy option for you, as basically we get the Captain's Dignity for free, which is Red Yami's specific skill page, so you can just whack that on him and it'll be perfectly fine, as this will be his best in slot skill page as well. But there are also a bunch of other good skill pages that you can also use, but I don't think you really need to worry about those, as this one is perfectly fine. So then on to the final section of the video, which is going to be team compositions. So which teams, which characters are you going to want to put Yami in? So obviously we're going to want Yami to be our main damage dealer, so we also are going to need a tank or someone to help take the damage and soak up all the damage for Yami so he can do as much damage as possible. So we have 2 options of Radis and Mars. These 2 are currently the best tanks in the game, and they're the best options that you can currently use in order to help tank the damage. So Mars is a great tank. He applies damage reduction, he stuns, he's really good, applies defense increases, is a great partner with Lotus. And then Radis is also great, as he can apply defense increases, he also applies barriers as well, debuff immunity, and he's also fantastic because he's also really quick as well. So any of one of those 2 will be completely fine, but let's say we're using Mars as an example, and then of course the perfect fit alongside Mars is going to be Lotus, as you can utilize their fantastic united attack combo. And then finally we're also going to want a character that can support Yami and also the rest of the party. So I'd probably say the 2 best supporting options are either going to be William Vengeance, because he's a blue supporter and is also the fastest character in the game, or Finral, as Finral is a speed increasing unit, which is going to be a fantastic combo with the Mars and Lotus combo, as you're also increasing your speed whilst reducing the enemies, creating a massive gap in speed difference. So there you go, that is my Yami build guide. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and comment down below your thoughts on this video and whether it helps you or not, and helps you with your build for Yami and all the team compositions that you can potentially use him in. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.